Okay, so welcome to everybody and thank you for being here. Onge etorri, kaixo. Ni Keili naiz, Helsingiko Universitatean Euskara ikasten ari naiz. And I had the honor of organizing this talk with Anne-Marie and her father, Robert, along with Araitz at the University of Helsinki. The majority of the talk is going to be in English, as we posted about, and we'll be talking about a few things in Basque. And as we said at the beginning, if you were here, we're going to be recording this conversation. So just so everybody knows and is aware that this will be recorded, and we will probably be posting it later on Euskara Helsinkin YouTube and Hello Basque YouTube accounts.
Well, thank you, Kaylee. So my name is Arait. I'm the teacher and the responsible in the Basque language and the Basque culture in the University of Helsinki. So it's really good to have you here, guys, and be able to talk to you. So yeah, well, nothing else than that. Thank you.
I want to remind everyone to stay muted the entire time, just so for making everything smooth and not having background noise. And we want this to be more of a discussion opposed to a super formal lecture. So we'll be asking questions to Anne-Marie and her father, Robert, and then at the end, we'll open it up to discussion. And thank you for your patience if any technical difficulties arise. And now I'll give Anne-Marie and her father the floor to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their lives, both a little bit in English and Basque, if they both feel comfortable too.
Okay, Aita, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Basque or in English?
Both. So whichever you want to start with.
Okay, my name is Robert Shiramero. Esparas Berdinda, Robert Shiramero.
Aita, where are you from?
Small village, the name is Saint Michel, or in Basque you can call that a Yalarre. It's 3 kilometers from Saint Jean-Pied-de-Port. Hiru kilometetan doniane garazetik. Intzun hauzi haintxo doniane garaze, Saint Jean-Pied-de-Port. Small village, we were about 300 people, now maybe 150, I don't know. Biziki herri txipia, eta jendia gaztiak bona dira hirira laneat, eta amieketat eta jindira. So not many people live there, some old people, that's all. Saharak.
Aita, where do you live now?
Orai, San Francisco konduan, close to San Francisco, about 5 miles from San Francisco. Izena San Bruno. Eta guai badu hiruetan eta zortzian nina San Francisco bat. I'm in San Francisco area since 1968. It's a long time ago. Yes, and I like it. I think I'm gonna die there. Biziki leku ederra da San Francisco. Bada denbora una da, ez sobera hotz, ez sobera bero. Ja. Hortako da, ani jende San Francisco dene maiteute klima, eta bada industria handia, bada lana nahi dinaka izan. Yeah. San Francisco area, California, all California is nice state. Yes. So you want to hear something on Basque? So how we say in Basque? Well, I think I explained pretty good.
Okay, if you're done with your introduction, I can do mine.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that was a great introduction. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm Anne-Marie. I am his daughter. I was born here in the US, so I'm very American. Yeah, so we're from San Francisco, and I've been here my whole life.
So I had to have somebody give me the job, and I had to have 5 years experience in that work. And I had enough experience. I was born and raised in the farm. So I worked in my father's farm until 25 years old. And then I left. Eta han utzi dut anaia, ono handa guai, latan eta 3 urte. Ono handa beti soltero etxean. Eta noaite behar zinegon. Eta nire nintzen, torre nintzen, enin ikusten han PC in Shushan and in Ikusten said that Gora join in Salatin. Ikustanina make it a Manila Giyo Shansa. So I had more opportunity in America to get somewhere. I like to try everything. So I like to try work for myself and get somewhere. Because over there, I will stay the same level all the time. And it was pretty poor. Now they okay. Now, ordean, jendetan etzen sosik eta familia handiak eta behatzi noapa joan etzen revenue gaski. Eta ordean hartako jendira anitza meiketat. I think that's it.
Yeah, I see all the time from Anne-Marie that you're keeping busy, always building stuff and doing stuff at the house and gardening, and you keep yourself busy. And we are aware that you were only, I think it was 8 or 9 months as a sheep herder, and then you became a gardener, correct? Did you stay in Montana during that time, or is that when you went to California, or how did that entire situation work?
First, I had to go to Montana because those days they were pretty tough already. You had to have somebody guarantee you the job. So I had somebody own the ranch over there, and then that's why I had to go there. But I was free. I didn't have any contract. I could move anytime. So I stayed only 7 months enough, and I didn't see any opportunity there either. I working there and for little wage and go anywhere, and it was too hard to start your own business. So I say, forget it, work here for somebody else or work in San Francisco for somebody else. So I don't take a chance, and the weather was a lot better in California than Montana. So I left.
But why did you choose San Francisco?
Well, my brother came here. He quit finally Montana and he went to San Francisco. And I had some other people I knew in San Francisco. So that's why I came to San Francisco.
Pretty interesting. A great story to hear of the immigration from Montana and then transitioning to California. When you first went to Montana and started being a sheep herder, how was the experience? A lot of what I have heard personally is a lot of the sheep herders were out by themselves. They were very isolated. There's a lot of research about the Basque herders that would carve onto trees, and that they would put messages on trees, and that they're still there today from even the 1800s. So how was that experience when you started as a sheep herder? And basically that.
Well, I started as a sheep herder and I didn't like it. I left the Basque country because I didn't like too much on the farm job and the cattle, but I had to go there. So it was okay. It was kind of rough life. We had to get up early in the morning, and sometimes it was cold. The first day I started working, January 1st, 1968, it was 32 below zero. So, and maybe in California, they have maybe 60. It was big difference on the weather. That's why I left. So I didn't see any, I like to do something, work for myself, have some business or something. I had to stay there working for somebody else. So it was too expensive to start your own business. You could never save enough money to start your own business. And that was okay 70, 80 years ago. Then they did okay. The land was cheap, and so a lot of opportunity. Government gave them a lot of chance to buy land pretty cheap. And then they got rich. They had good helper coming from the Basque country. They didn't have to worry about, and they did good. We had 4,000 sheep and maybe 400 cows, few horses. Yeah, and big area. It was 70 section. I don't know how many acres is that, but I heard about 600 or I don't know what. Anyway, yeah, and the guy I came for, he was married to my cousin. I was relative with his wife, and then I didn't work for him because when I came, he used to retire a couple of years before. So I started working for the American who rented the ranch. They bought the cattle when he retired, the 4,000 sheep and 400 cows and the horse, whatever, and they rented the land. So he was okay. My cousin, he was getting $35,000 rent every month from the ranch. He didn't have to work. 1968, it was a lot of money. And it's church. Yeah, and that's it. But I knew I won't get that there. My brother stayed there 9 years, and he has to move. He came to San Francisco, same thing. It was too expensive. So he had to do something. And the wife was a nurse. She didn't want to go there either. She has a relative in San Francisco. Forget about Montana. She didn't want to go Montana. And that's why he stayed in San Francisco. He didn't like San Francisco. Hastiosin, etsin maite San Francisco, San Sobera urte pastia, maite sin Aranchaco bizia. He loved that. So he was even ready to go back from San Francisco if he could, but the wife said, no, 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 no. Es Montanaik, es, yes, yeah. Well, you nurse and you live in the city all your life. So I don't think it's the right place. It's okay for somebody who's born in the ranch, it's okay, but for somebody in the city, and that's it, I guess.
Thank you for that. The next question that we have is, when you moved to the US, were you among a lot of other Basque? And if so, how was that situation? How was it with learning English? Were you speaking mostly Basque when you arrived, especially during those months when you were in Montana? And how did that work with learning English? How was that for you? And tell us about that experience.
Oh, the English, that's the worst part. Everybody will say that is not easy when you don't speak one word English. So, but Montana, I couldn't speak too much Basque. We didn't have too many Basque there. My cousin, even the American, they rent the ranch, they all speak English. So it was good for me. I had a chance to learn English. And then before I came to Montana, I was in Canada for a year and a half. And there I went to night class. I had a little bit in English. So that helped. Plus with the boss talking English, so it was not that bad. So when I came to San Francisco, well, I had not too much trouble. I was okay with the English, but San Francisco is all Basque. We always, every day we were speaking Basque or French. Most of the people speak Basque, and almost every day we were speaking with Basque. We had a lot of gardeners in San Francisco, so we see each other anywhere when we were working and weekend or whatever. So, but the English in the beginning is pretty hard, yes. So I didn't have one more English. We had no chance to learn English in France. It was only just Basque and French. That's it.
Were you using more French or Basque?
More Basque, yes.
Or Basque, okay.
Well, yeah, we have quite a few people, they don't speak Basque. So with them, my sister-in-law doesn't speak Basque, so I have to speak French with her. And yeah, but mostly Basque, yeah. Even now, San Francisco is a little Basque country. I'm pretty sure you heard about that.
Yes, thank you for that. And for when you were leaving Iparralde, how difficult was for you to decide to leave? I know you mentioned that your brother went first, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'll take a chance and go as well. But what did you feel like you were leaving behind? Did you plan to return to Iparralde, or at that point were you thinking, okay, I'm going to start my new life in the U.S. and kind of follow that American dream, what we talk about a lot in the U.S. Yeah.
No, I never missed the Basque country. I work hard and I was happy. I never have intention to go back. To visit the family, it's okay. I have family over there. I am happy to go there, but to stay there, no, 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 forget it. I like America. You have more opportunity and I don't know, somehow I like it. A lot of people, they have some homesickness and some they go back, but never have any idea to go there, start all over again over there. So, but like all Basco, maybe I was thinking when I came, well, I'm gonna spend few years there, and then I can go back and maybe buy something or something with the dollar, because the dollar was worth it pretty good against the franc. Then it was the franc. But no, I didn't see anything I liked when I went back. I was happy to come back to San Francisco.
I have a question that came from somebody in the audience. You said that you spent a year and a half in Canada and before you went to Montana? And if so, what part of Canada was it? Quebec or another French-speaking area?
Yeah, I was in the province of Quebec, yes. So to get the visa, I had a problem. That's why I came to Canada. So I applied for my visa to come to Montana, and just then my cousin retired. And I was waiting, and no news, no news. And then the problem is he retired, he rented the ranch, and he didn't need any helper anymore, forget it. And then he didn't tell me anything. I was waiting, so I was tired to wait. He didn't care. He didn't have a ranch anymore, and he had some kind of fight with the agent. They didn't get along fine, so he didn't care about me. So finally, I said to my agent, forget it. I'm not here waiting forever. I will never get in Montana. Then he said, okay, he wants my money. He sent me to Canada. Oh, you can go to Canada in 2 months. You want to have the visa for Canada? Yes. And sure enough, in 2 months, I was in Montreal. Yes. And then he told me, when you go to Montreal, you can go to American Consulate, you can apply for visa again. And that's what I did. I didn't like too much Canada either. It was kind of cold. And then that's what I did. And then I was lucky. The American, the one they rented a ranch, they sponsor for me. They need helper. There were 3 brothers associated. They have 3 ranch already, and then they rented this one, so they need workers, no problem. So that's why I came to US, because of those American people. They helped me to get here.
Wow, you have a super interesting experience being in Canada, Montana, and then going to California, and of course being from Iparralde. I'm sure you have a lot of experience and good things to share with us. Thank you for that detailed answer. And yeah, if you don't like the cold of Canada, I'm sure you wouldn't like the cold of Finland either. Oh, but
we enjoyed it on Google Images from afar.
yeah, it was nice to look at. And this summer it's pretty warm, but nothing compared to California. So the next question we have for you regarding your identity, after being in the US for so long, what do you feel you are? Basque, Basque American, French? How would you identify yourself? Do you feel more American than you feel Basque, or a combination? Yeah, what do you feel?
I feel I'm a little bit of everything. I have French passport. I'm French. I serve in the French army. I earned that French citizenship. And then America, I love it. I made good here. And the Basco, you never forget your first language. So I'm Basque, I'm French, and I'm American. But I think maybe I'm more American. I spent too many years here now, and more American. But still, I like Basque. So I have a lot of friends. We speak Basque almost every day. So it's okay. French, I like French too. I'm born there. And it's nice country, France. So I have 3 I like. The Basque and the French and the English.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I can understand having such a close connection with all 3 of them. It makes sense that you feel connected to all of them still. And for Anne-Marie, I have that same question. What do you feel, having now grown up in the US? And of course, you have that heritage connection to the Basque Country, the French side, Iparralde. What do you feel?
Yeah, that's a complicated question. Kind of like I thought. I guess it's a mix of all 3. Because I'm super American culturally, because I've lived here my whole life. But also, I did learn French as a kid. I didn't learn Basque, but Aita sent me to a French immersion school as a kid. So I had 10 years of French education. I have French nationality, again, through him. And so, and my mom's parents were from France, not the Basque Country. But so, yeah, like, it's complicated. But yeah, very American, but also clearly I do have this connection with Basque culture and the Basque Country because, well, my dad's the most Basque person I know. And so even though I grew up here and I've been to the Basque Country many times to visit, I've never actually lived there. I feel a very strong connection with Basque culture just through this guy. But I also realize I'm very American. You know, a lot of people say, oh, just because your family is Basque doesn't make you Basque. I would say listening to this guy yell at me in Basque my whole life, I think I've earned a little right to have some sort of connection to Basque. Just kidding.
Yeah,
He doesn't yell at me. He's very nice. He just gives orders and commands. Basque is the language of telling me to do stuff. So yeah, like I thought, I think it's a mix of all three.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. And then for me, have my dad's side has Finnish heritage, so I have the same like that connection. I was born in the U.S. and I feel that same thing. Is it's you feel the connection to it, but having not been there, of course, now I live here. I feel more connected, but it's still kind of that hard when you're not there and you didn't grow up there. It creates an interesting identity, and the way that also people in that place look at it and understand you as like. I think in America we talk a lot about like I say I'm Finnish American, but if I say that in Finland, people are like, yeah, but you're not because your parents don't have nationality. It's this, I think, this interesting identity idea that we have of somebody has to be born in the country or have to have a parent and speak the language and all these different things. And I think there's a lot of conversation that comes with Basque, especially when we talk about being like Euskalduna, so the speaker of Basque, and this new Basque speakers and old Basque speakers. So the identity, and it creates a lot of I guess issues when people like try to identify themselves with culture, and then if they don't speak the language, do they feel disconnected? And yeah, I know for me personally with Finland, it kind of felt like that disconnect. And then similar to what you're doing, learning Basque, I came to learn Finnish and gain that connection. And I know from your blogs, originally you were not studying much Basque, but recently you've been really motivated to study Basque. And what kind of started those motivations? And what are you planning to do with the Basque, or is it just for connection to the heritage? Why exactly have you now gotten remotivated? Or
Yeah. Okay. So before I answer your question, I just want to touch on what you were saying. I do think it's maybe hard to understand outside of the US, this like complex identities. I don't know. I think it's a very like American thing that we're like also attached to like our ethnic heritage because like as Americans, we don't really have an ethnicity, whereas maybe in Europe, it's like a lot more obvious, like what you are, because it's a lot more based on like where you're from. And so there's that whole being a country of immigrants, we have a lot of connections to a lot of different places. But yeah, for me, originally for many years, I was like not interested in studying Basque at all because well, for us growing up, language was like really just utilitarian. It was like I learned French so that I could talk with my relatives back in France, both in the Basque Country and then my mom's side as well. So that was kind of the main motivation to speak English and French. And Basque was really, for me in my life before I got very involved online, it was really only to like eavesdrop on my dad's conversations with his friends and his siblings, which like as a teenager, I didn't care what they were saying. So that wasn't important to me at the time. But now that I think the Hello Basque YouTube channel, it's slowly growing. And my social media, I feel like online, I've had more encounters with Basque speakers. Like people leave me a lot of comments and they send me messages and emails in Basque. And I would go to Aita and I'd be like, hey, let me read this message. But because I'm guessing a lot of it is either Euskara Batua or it's other dialects other than his, he has trouble understanding the messages. And so it was just kind of this frustration that I had where I finally came to a point where I was like, okay, like I am slowly making connections with people in the Basque Country who speak Basque, and my Spanish is terrible. And even if my Spanish was good, a lot of Basque speakers who speak Spanish don't want to use Spanish. They want to use Basque, right? So it was more just a frustration of being like, I want to be able to like read people's messages and reply to them and kind of connect on a different level. So that's what motivated me to enroll in a class for Batua, because the longest time I was like, what do I need standardized Basque for? Because my family doesn't speak that. And if I want to speak with my family, I'll speak English or French. Easy. Why am I going to go to this effort to learn this standardized Basque that he doesn't even understand? But now that I have more of like a broader mindset, like an online community I'm trying to reach out to, there's a use for it in my life that maybe a few years ago I didn't have. So now I'm hoping to learn Batua as just kind of like a foundation to have something that I can communicate with people about. And I'm hoping, and I'm finding that actually it does help me understand my dad a little better, because I'm slowly starting to see like the similarities. The words may not be the same pronunciation. He may drop like 3 syllables in a word that when you write it out in Batua is a really long word and he'll say it really fast. But like, yeah, and so I'm starting to see that there is a connection between standardized Basque and my dad's Basque that I didn't understand before.
Very interesting. Thank you for that answer, which flows nicely into the next question is the family language. So when you guys started, this is for Robert, when you guys had children, what was the language that you guys started talking to the children in? And was there a discussion of we're going to speak to them in X language or Y language? And how did that go?
That's a good question. Yeah. Did you and mom decide together what languages we were going to speak at home when we were kids?
Oh, I tried French because they didn't speak, but mom doesn't speak Basque, so I couldn't speak Basque. So I had to stick with the French. And I like same time they learn French. At least French language is important. So I was thinking one day they want to go back to Basque country or whatever, France, they can communicate with the people, family and everybody. So that's why they went to school, French school, until 14 years old. Then I tried the Basque too, but they were laughing at me. I say, what do you mean? What do you mean? What? They found funny Basco, so I gave up. So at least they have French. Now she wants to speak Basque. So at least they have 2 languages. For maybe she's gonna have a 3 pretty soon. We'll see. With mom, we speak French. I try. Well, she's born here. She speaks French, but she stick much with the English. I speak French, and she answer in English. That's the problem. And with the kids, they pretty good. They answer in French now. Yeah.
Yeah, I have memories as a kid of you speaking to me in Basque. I remember you were speaking to me in Basque, but because I spent all day speaking French and English, it just was a lot harder. It didn't really stick. And I would be a little kid and be like, I don't understand what you're saying, and so he would switch.
To French.
Yeah. Yeah.
English, I was no worry. I knew they're going to learn English. I was worried about French and Basque. Yeah, I tried to teach them Basque, but maybe it was hard too. In school, they have French and English, and they were working pretty hard in school, so they didn't, if mommy spoke Basque, it would be easier, but she didn't speak Basque, so I had to stick with the French or in English.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. I think once there's 3 languages into the mix, it makes it really difficult. But now Anne-Marie's taking it up and coming back with the Basque, so I'm sure she'll be fluent in no time. Studying hard about the well. But yeah, I think it's a lot of times this discussion of immigration and the languages of families. And I had the same thing in my family. We only spoke in English, even though my grandparents spoke Finnish, and it was, wanting to assimilate, and it was difficult. They didn't have anybody else to speak Finnish too. So, and yeah, so I can understand and identify with that situation. And with that, the next question is, how connected do you guys feel with the Basque culture in the US? A lot of people, I think, who are familiar with the Basque diaspora know that there are a lot of Euskal Herria so Basque centers, cultural centers in the US and also in South America, in Latin America. But I think Boise, Idaho is super typical. People know about that place, and Reno, Nevada, because of their Basque Studies PhD. But I don't think a lot of people realize how present it is also in California. And I think Anne-Marie is a pro in this. She gives tours. I think you give tours right in San Francisco.
Pre-pandemic, yeah, I gave
Yeah.
walking tours of San Francisco. Yeah.
So first question is, how connected do you guys feel with the culture? And then with that is, what is the presence of the Basque still today? And I guess you could tell us a little bit, Anne-Marie, about your tours and what precisely you do with those.
Yeah. So Aita, do you feel connected to Basque culture here in California?
I'm puro Vasco. I'm connected with the Vasco. In the center.
That's our Escuela
Yes,
the Basque Center.
Basque Center. Yeah, I'm attached to that one. We built that building in 1982. Mila behatziunta lauetan eta bian. And then, yeah, I remember that. So we had to pay a little bit to build that building, but we are all happy now we did. So, and we have a lot of parties there, and it's you're gonna talk to people, they come visit to San Francisco, they're gonna say, oh, Basque Cultural Center, there's a lot of Basque there, it's like a Basque country. Yeah, we love that house, yeah. Oh, we Basque, we never deny the Basque language and the tradition or whatever, even we American. Some people they surprise I'm a lot of Basque. Yeah, I'm still a lot of Basque, even in America, and I won't never give up about the Basque culture and the Basque language and whatever.
Yeah, you were literally at the Basque Center yesterday having lunch with all of your friends. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, we literally, it also mattered where we decided to live. Like we had to live within like 10 minutes of the Basque Center. I remember when I was a kid, when we moved, we couldn't move too far. Mom wanted to move to a sunnier, warmer place that was further away, but we couldn't. We had to be within 10 minutes because that's his social life every weekend. That's where he is speaking Basque with people. That he's been here in the US with for decades. So yes, we are members of the Escuela. And growing up for me, that was a big part of our social life. Like we would go every weekend. We have a folkloric traditional Basque dance group here. A lot of clubs in the US do. So I did traditional Basque dancing for 11, 12 years. And with that, we have festivals. It was shocking to me to go back to the Basque Country as an adult in the summertime and go to some like village festivals to realize like, oh wow, everything we do here in the US, they got it from the Basque Country. I didn't understand. So literally like the Basque festivals, the village festivals you have in the Basque Country, like we do that here. It'll just be like in the middle of the desert in Nevada or, Boise, Idaho, but it's the same thing. Everybody comes out. Some places they have street parties, they'll have music, dancing, drinking, dinners. It's all this, and handball games at the frontons. It's all, yeah, very similar. Now with the pandemic, everything's kind of on hold. But yeah, in the summertime, if you wanted to travel all over the Western United States, you could go to a Basque festival every weekend in the summertime. You have to travel very long distances to find them. There might not be a lot of people there, but if you know where to look for the Basque people, they're pretty active out here. And yeah, so I started a historical walking tour of the city of San Francisco, because that's the thing. A lot of the Basque culture is here, but it's not very visible because a lot of Basque immigrants and their families, we've moved to the suburbs. Our clubhouse is like in the suburbs. It's not, downtown in the big cities with the Basque flags. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of Basque history to the streets of San Francisco, because in his day, when he arrived, there were Basque restaurants and hotels and frontons in the city of San Francisco. But now it's different. So I started a walking tour because I'm a tour guide normally, pre-pandemic. And so just touring the streets of San Francisco where the old Basque boarding houses used to be that welcomed Basque immigrants, because San Francisco was the place where a lot of the earlier waves of immigration in the US came during the gold rush in California in the 1840s. People would get off the ships in San Francisco, and then they would go to Idaho or Nevada or the rest of California. So yeah, we do have a strong Basque history here, just not a lot of people know about it.
And on your tours, what do you typically show to people, and what are you highlighting?
I'm highlighting the stories of many of the Basque immigrants who set up hotels and boarding houses because, yeah, so, Basque immigrants would come here not speaking English. So they would come to San Francisco, and there would be Basque immigrants who set up boarding houses for Basque immigrants. So the ships would get into port, and there would be somebody who would go down and speaking Basque to anybody. And if they found somebody speaking Basque, they'd be like, come to my hotel, and they would give them a room and board and help them, find employment through, the earlier Basque immigrants who already had ranches, their own businesses, who needed help. So it was really where they connected people at these boarding houses. So I go and I show the buildings, which are now oftentimes Chinese restaurants, different bars, but I'll show the buildings and tell the stories of the husband and wives. Usually it was families that ran these boarding houses, and I tell their stories of immigration and what happened to these people and their families.
Super interesting. And I think now all of us, once the pandemic is over, we can travel again. We'll have to come and take your tour and hear about everything going on there and what has happened historically with Basque in California, and specifically in San Francisco. We got a question from Araitz asking, so Robert, you built the hitzaldia in 1982. Did you actually take part in building process or in the decision to build? How and why did you decide to build the hitzaldia?
Oh, the problem, we didn't have a fronton, we didn't have the handball court, so everybody liked pilota, every Vasco, so we had to have something, and we like to have some meeting place so we can get together, we can have party, we can play plenty handball. It was not easy, but some fight here and there, everybody was not agreeing. They say we will never pay, we will never maintain that. It was expensive in 1982. That cost about 1.3 million. Now, compared to now, it was cheap, but for them, so we had to collect the money for members. Some people, they didn't want to get members, they didn't want to spend money. They said that won't help, but somehow we made it. We came with enough people, they gave enough money to build the house. We had a little debt in the beginning. It was, we had to make the payment on the loan, and Lar Vasco made the loan. They were paying interest, and then somehow, and thank God that the house turned out right. We always work good. Even now is very good business there, except last year, but it's picking up again. Now people are coming again. They open 50%, and people, they allow, they didn't allow inside. Now they allowed inside, and we have to keep distance, but it's okay. A lot of people getting vaccine now. It's people, they were scared to go there. They're gonna catch that coronavirus. So, well, anyway, so that's why we bought the building, have one meeting place for the Basco. We can practice our Basque dance, have a party. So we built a nice place. It's got a big room. You can make a wedding for 300 people to 400 if you want. I think limit is 360, whatever. And the handball court, everybody likes the handball court. It's nice handball court. So they come from some of the city to play here, and we have entertainment from Basque Pilotari. They came from Spain 3-4 times a year, wherever. Yeah, and it's nice to keep all the past tradition, the dance, pilota, the good Bascaria, afaria, danza, everything.
And by the 80s, it was important for them to set up their own escuela, their own clubhouse, because before that, a lot of Basque social life in San Francisco was around these boarding houses, the dinners, the dances, everything was happening in these hotels and the restaurants that they had. But as there were less and less Basque immigrants over the years, as conditions improved in the Basque Country, and as immigration opportunities here in the U.S. were shutting down, there were less Basque people coming. So those businesses eventually had to close. So once a lot of those Basque hotels and restaurants in San Francisco closed, it was either they weren't going to have anywhere to go, or they would have to build their own clubhouse. So that's what they did.
Pretty impressive. I think you said there in the clubhouse, it could be up to 400 people sitting. I mean, it's really big then, and that it can house a lot of people. And I think it's this same situation for a lot of the euskal in the US. It's impressive to see that they're that big and that there's still people decade after decade and generation after generation staying involved in the culture and learning the language and doing everything that the euskal offers. The next question is, how often do you guys return to the Basque Country? Have you guys been in both Hegoalde and Iparralde? Yeah.
We stay there around my house in the French side. We go visit in Spain, but most of the time in French side. And we go, all depends, sometimes every 3-4 years. When I was single, I used to go every year to palomba hunting. And now we do nothing anymore. But so if we had wedding, my nephew got married 1 year. And we were then year before, so we went 2 years a row. When it was hunting season, I went 2 years a row in October, but most of the time average about 4 or 5 years.
And what about you, Anne-Marie? How often do you go, and have you been in both Iparralde and Hegoalde?
Yeah, so growing up, like I just said, we'd go every few years in summer. But now as an adult, I used to go every year. I like going in the fall because before I'd always go in summer. So I don't know, I like seeing the changing colors. So I made it my mission to go at least once a year and see the rest of the Basque Country. Because yeah, growing up, we would go visit family, right? So we would pretty much stay in one place. And so my idea of the Basque Country for so long, it was very different from the idea other people have of the Basque Country, because for me it was very rural, very quiet, nothing to do, nowhere to go, just like hanging out on the farm. So now as an adult, I like to go to Donosti, Bilbao, Gasteiz. I've been to San Fermin a couple of times. I like to go see what's happening in Hegoalde and see that, like, oh wow, the Basque Country is actually really modern. It shocks me when I'm like driving through the countryside and I see a factory. I'm like, wow, Gipuzkoa, this is amazing. You have jobs here, what? So I like visiting different places just to see the contrast and just to try to understand the Basque Country better, not just, my little quaint folkloric idea of what it was back in his day, but like how things are now.
And when was the last time that you visited? Probably pre-pandemic. I think you participated in a conference or a convention, correct? Could you tell us briefly about that?
Yeah, did I? No, it was just a couple weeks ago. The Sabina Arana Foundation had like a Zoom 2-day workshop about relations between the US and the Basque Country. And I was just watching. They had different speakers presenting about political, history, cultural relations between the two. But yeah, so the last time I was there was October 2019. I was supposed to go again October last year, but you know how the story goes. Maybe October this year. We'll see.
Keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that works out. We'll transition now into a few questions about the Basque language. So first, what are your thoughts on Euskara Batua? This is to Robert. So what are your thoughts on the Euskara Batua, and how difficult is it for you to understand?
Well, it's not easy. I see a lot of words. They're pretty close to our Basque, but it's different. Few words are different, and the pronunciation is a little bit different. The only thing if you know our Basque, you're gonna figure out what you're talking about. You figure it out, but it's a little bit different. But to remember when I hear something Batua, to remember when you get older, it's not easy to remember. But otherwise, yeah, you figure out what they're talking about. Yeah, yeah. But I think I all I need that is my old Basque. I guess I don't know. I like to learn Batua too, but I'm not too worried about Batua.
And you have a lot of, I assume, maybe you could probably tell about this, but you have a lot of friends at the Euskal that's close to you guys. And I assume that people are from all different parts of the Basque Country. And when you're with people, no, they're all from Iparralde. Okay,
Well,
so
they-
I'll let him explain.
yeah, okay. Go ahead.
We have people coming from Spanish side, Gipuzkoa or Vizcaya or whatever. They are a little bit different Basque, but we understand each other somehow. Mostly we speak all Basque, and when they come here visit, they a lot of them they Navarra and it's same Basque also. But we figure it out.
Yeah, that was exactly my question, to see if people are coming from different parts that are not from Iparralde, from Navarra or from Egualde, if you guys continue in Basque. But from what you're saying, you guys do speak in Basque, and maybe it takes a little bit of time at first to figure it out, but you guys continue in Basque.
Yeah, so my understanding is him and all his friends are pretty much from the same part of the Basque Country. Even the Basque immigrants here in San Francisco who are from Egualde, at least the older generation, most of them are from northern Nafarroa, and he's from Baixo Nafarroa. So like the dialects are like just, it's basically the same. It's all, I say it's two different countries, but it's all the same mountain. Basically, you're on one side of the mountain or the other. So yeah, your guys' Escuara is very similar, pretty much the same, right? Even when you're speaking to people from Nafarroa,
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
same.
you understand each other. So yeah, that's what I wanted to point out, is that even though we have Basque immigrants from all over the Basque Country, in the US, the settlement patterns really tended to be like people from the same villages or valleys or like very similar areas ended up in the same places. So like Boise, Idaho has a lot of people from Vizcaya because, you know, everyone would bring their cousins, their brothers, whatever. And here in California, it was a lot of people from Iparralde and northern Nafarroa.
Okay, interesting. So people tended to stay. Of course, it makes sense. They brought family members and they stayed in that area, and they ended up having a lot of people from that same area in their little community. I've heard similar things happening in Buenos Aires in Argentina as well. As they've done that, where there was different escuela and it was divided kind of by different regions. So seems like something similar happened in the US. What are your thoughts? Does Euskara Batua, for the people who maybe don't know, I didn't explain this, Euskara Batua is the standardized Basque. So it's an attempt to like normalize and connect the Basque dialects to make it easier, both for people learning and then understanding people between dialects. So my question with that is, what are your thoughts? Does it help to understand between people? And do you feel that you need Euskara Batua to connect? And of course, for you, Robert, you never learned it, but what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's useful? Or do you think it hurts the vitality of the dialects?
Of course, every language is useful. I love but that is for the young people. It's going to be beautiful. Everybody understand each other. That's beautiful. Now we are kind of problem. The young they speak Batua, and we don't know anything about Batua. A little bit different, but no, I'm not against Batua. For the young one, I think it's beautiful. Yeah. The old people, maybe we don't think, whoa, we all know what for we need a new Batua. But it's nice to, if I can understand, I'd be happy. It's no problem.
And then last question before we move on to a few translations that Arais is going to do is for Anne-Marie. How has been your experience with Batua? I know you've discussed a lot is you'll ask your dad something and then I remember one specific example on a YouTube video of to want, and it was like Nahi or in Batua is Nai. How has your experience been trying to learn and balancing it off with your dad's dialect?
So you have one sort about Batua.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of a nightmare because it is useful. Yes, I'm a very visual learner, so it's nice to have things written out, the workbooks, like it's useful to have a, you know, standardized curriculum, but it's I feel like it's really slow going, at least learning Batua here in California, because everyone's like, oh, your dad can help you. I'm like, no, because whatever I learn in class, my dad then gives me 3 new words for the same word that I'm so proud that I just learned. And then I get really confused. And I feel like it's like 2 steps forwards, 1 step back every time. So I'm trying to take it as just like a linguistically interesting experience. Like I'm trying to just be curious to like learn everything, because if I'm like too strict about it, it can be really, really frustrating. Because yeah, I'm learning things in class and then I come home and I tell Aita and he's like, what? And then he teaches me something new. So yeah, it can be really confusing. But also it's been interesting. I don't know how it is in the Basque Country. I only know what I read in comments, because I've done some videos on my YouTube channel of like me trying to do these exercises and lessons in Batua. And clearly I speak French and I have more of a French pronunciation. I have more of a pronunciation that I picked up from my dad. I do pronounce H's. It's nahi, not nai. And even with that, he says maite instead of nai anyway. So it's like, all confused. And so, yeah, I've been getting like a lot of comments from people telling me that I'm wrong for speaking Basque the way my dad does, which is kind of really infuriating sometimes. So that's what I think your question about like, does Batua hurt the vitality of the dialects is really interesting. I don't have an answer for that, but I do think it's a little frustrating when you're trying to kind of navigate Batua and a dialect, like when you're kind of mixing the two. I don't know. I think in the Basque Country, maybe people keep it separate. Maybe, you know, people who learn Batua just speak that and people who learn the dialect just speak that, whereas I'm just all confused and mixing anything up. And I'm just really grateful if somebody understands anything that I said, you know? So it's hard to like be really strict with grammar with Batua when you're learning like 2 different ways of speaking Basque.
Right. And there's so many dialects, and I think it makes it difficult. And of course, Patua is great and it helps, especially for learning. But then when it comes to like being linguistically, people being linguistically aware and understanding that there's more than just the Patua, and they're still correct in their dialect. And yeah, I think it's building more linguistic awareness and not always expecting it to be the normalized version. And yeah. So the last thing we have before we open up for questions, if there's any questions, we have a few sentences, just 2, that we're going to translate. I'll post them here. Raitz is going to say it in Euskara Batua, and then we're hoping that, Robert, you could say it in your dialect. So the sentence is, my family lives in the same house. I live on the bottom floor, and my children live on the upper floor.
All right, so that in Euskara Batua would be sounding something like, nire familia etxe bizitza berean bizi da, ni beheko pisuan bizi naiz, eta nire seme alabak goiko solairuan bizi dira.
That is very close to our Basque. It's not different at all. Ene familia bizida etxe gainean, eta what is the other one living downstairs?
I live on the bottom floor and my children live on the upper floor.
Ni bizi naiz gaineko estaian, eta familia edo haurrak bizi dira behereko estaian.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit different, but I think we can hear the difference and see that there is a difference in it. One more sentence, and this sentence is, I prefer reading books in the evening opposed to watching TV.
So I would say, iluntzeetan telebista ikustea baino, liburuak irakurtzea nahiago dut.
Telebistari soin baino nahiago dut liburia leitu.
I prefer reading books instead of watching TV.
Yeah, nahiago dut liburia leitu, telebistari soin baino.
This one was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah,
we can see the difference between the dialects and or the dialect and the Euskara Batua, I guess, even though some of us don't speak Basque.
But why you have a lot of words for the same now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Few word here and there, and they 100% different. But in general, you're gonna see it's a Basque, whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
still the same language.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
more or less.
And because I think they have easier Basque than Vizcaya. Vizcaya, I think, is a little bit harder to understand.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for answering all of our questions. There's a few minutes left, and if anybody has a question, you can feel free to unmute your mic and ask, or put it in the chat. So we'll answer 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll end up closing this chat or this session. So feel free to write or open the mic if you want to ask.
Somebody asked a question about soccer teams. I'm sorry, I don't think we follow any of that. No.
Soccer in Vasco is only pilota, puro pilota. Now soccer, they pretty good on soccer. They're interested in soccer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a confusion there between pelota and actually the ball, because pelota means ball in Spanish. So I think there was a confusion between the sports.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. So if anyone doesn't have a question, I have one brief question that has to do with Basque sports. So when you were living in Iparralde, did you practice any traditional Basque sports?
Me, no, we didn't have the time. We were working 24/7. No. Pilota, when I was in school, so we were play pilota. And then after school, no, in our house, it was wasted time. I love watching pelota. I love pelota, but I never practice after. No, nothing. And now they have rugby, La Vasco, they're interested on the rugby, the French game, but they love that. And pelota is still there, yeah.
Okay, so you weren't lifting any rocks in your free time or chopping any wood.
No, that was called work. No, that wasn't for sports. That was for survival.
Exactly.
No, when I was doing research for my Basque walking tour in San Francisco, I found all these old photos from the 1950s, 60s of some Basque immigrants. You know, they had their dance group, they had, the pilota tournaments, and they had a clica, which is, I think, more of an Iparralde thing, but it's like a marching band. So they had musicians, and I was looking at these photos and I recognized all these people that are like my dad's friends. I was like, I thought, like, did you never get involved with any of this? And he was like, no, I was too busy working. He's like, I didn't have time for pilota. I didn't have time to dance on the weekends. I was working. So
yeah,
that's kind of his attitude. But now you have time to watch pilota.
Yeah. The problem is we don't have too many pilotari now. The young one, they're not very, very interested. It's hard, but they like pala now. Still pala is very popular. But handball, still people interested.
There's one last question before we end this lecture, and Brian is asking, do they gamble on pelota in the San Francisco Euskal?
Do they gamble at the Basque Cultural Center?
No. We're not in España, Elizondo. No betting here. No. We don't have that. I was surprised. I went to some nice game in Elizondo, and I was surprised to see those people. They were throwing one pelota money inside, and another one throwing here, throwing there. It was funny. No, we don't have that here. No.
Okay, thank you. I want to just say thank you again to everybody and for the questions that came in. Special thank you to Anne-Marie and her father for dedicating an hour of their time today. While it's in the morning, 10 a.m. in San Francisco, and here now it's 8 p.m. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It was really, really nice to hear of your experience. So thank you to both of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us. This has been
interesting.
Yeah, I think we were both surprised that there's anybody in Finland who's interested to hear about Basque immigration to America. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have both of you. So thank you again to both of you, everyone here, to the University of Helsinki, also for making this possible, the Basque Studies, and Etxepare. So you guys can probably see this video online. If there's something you want to see again at the end, is it will be on YouTube. Eskerrik asko.
Eskerrik asko.
Eskerrik asko benetan. Mila esker. Thank you very much to everyone who joined and to you guys for this lecture. Mila esker, Kaylee, for arranging all this.
It's nice to know somebody's interested in Vasco. It's nice.
Well, actually, there's some comments here saying that they love your dialect. So, yeah, more than interest.
Yeah, it's hard language. Yeah, it's not easy. It's easy when you learn with mama, when you're a smart child, but after ask Anna-Maria, she knows it's hard. Yeah.
Yes, so I'll say one more time, eskerrik asko, and in Finnish, kiitos. And we'll probably be keeping up and seeing your videos on YouTube in the future.
Isanondo. How you say?
Don't ask me.
Isanuncha.